Hello, Andrews University. Happy Sabbath. It's hard to see you guys out there. Did you know it's Halloween today? Is that correct? Yeah, I didn't know. Are you guys enjoying the snow? Yeah, me neither. Some of you are. For those of you who don't know me, which is most of you, my name is Jeremy Lee. I am a student in the seminary. I'm taking classes there. And this is my 7th year in Berrien Springs. Yeah, anyone been here for longer than 7 years? Couple people, yeah, 7 years is a long time. If you told me when I was in high school that I was gonna be in Berrien Springs for 7 years, I would have had a nightmare. That would have been terrible. But I'm from Michigan. I'm from Detroit. Anyone from Detroit? Oh yeah, that's new. I usually don't get that. Yeah, I'm from Detroit, born and raised. This is my 22nd winter. I'm 24, but I had a couple years. But this is my 22nd winter, Michigan winter style. I think I deserve a medal for that. There's people who've been here longer, but it's been difficult. Yeah, it's good to be here. It's really a privilege to be here. I'm excited for tonight. This is where Dwight Nelson stands on Sabbath mornings. That's crazy. Yeah, so I'm excited. If you guys have been following along, we're in the middle of a series. We just started, actually, and the series is concerning the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes, we're going to be going from Matthew chapter 5. And yesterday, Kelly Gabriel gave a very poignant, pointed, very vulnerable message and testimony from her life. And I really appreciated that. I thought that took a lot of courage and bravery to share what she did, and it was inspiring to me. So I appreciated what she shared yesterday. And so she shared from the very first Beatitude. Let's read it together. Matthew chapter 5. We'll start in verse 1. Seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, this is Jesus, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." That's what Kelly talked about yesterday. I don't know if you're aware, but the subtitle to our series this month, I think, is The Lesser Paradox. The Lesser Paradox. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but a paradox is something that is, you guys know, a paradox is something that is apparently self-contradictory, but it is possibly true, right? And we're talking about the lesser paradox, and it's interesting because in the Beatitudes, Jesus is kind of throwing out a bunch of little paradoxes, right? He says, happy are the poor. That's weird. Happy are those who mourn. If you're mourning, you're happy. Happy are the meek. Happy are you who hunger. Happy are you who thirst. I mean, these are things that seem to be kind of opposites, but Jesus is saying these people who are poor, who are meek, who are mourning, and who are hungry and thirsty, and so on and so forth, these people are happy. And Jesus he's throwing out these paradoxes. Yesterday, Kelly talked about blessed are the poor in spirit. This is one of the craziest statements in the Bible to me. I mean, Jesus is essentially saying in our lingo, people who are the lowest in spirituality, the spiritually impoverished, the people who don't think that they're very spiritual, those people, present tense, theirs is the kingdom of heaven right now. It's theirs right now at this very moment. Think of your least spiritual friend, the person who considers them, who has nothing to do with God, who has nothing to do with any kind of spirituality in their life. Those who are impoverished spiritually, the kingdom of heaven is yours right now. That's crazy. That's crazy. The Jews used to think that a happy, healthy, wealthy Jew is someone who goes to heaven. But here's Jesus is saying, no. The poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So we talked about that a little bit yesterday. Today, we're going to move on. Jesus started with, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Verse 4, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we're here to look at your word tonight, and we've sung some beautiful music. We've seen how we're going out into the community to reach out, and I pray that as we look at your word tonight, that we might see who you are crystal clear, Lord, and whether it is because or despite the words that come out of my mouth, I pray that we might be able to see you tonight. May that be clear, and may you be lifted up. In your name we pray, amen. A couple weeks ago, I was in California. Anyone from California? Yeah. California is a beautiful place. I miss California right now. I was in California, and I was there for the weekend because I had to go to take care of some business. And what that business was is there was this girl I was talking to for a while. We were friends in college, and I had to go to California because I went to ask her to be my girlfriend. And so I did, and she said yes. So that was exciting. I was in California. Thank you. Thank you. So I was in California a couple weeks ago, and so I did that on Friday. And Sunday, we proceeded to go to San Diego. Anyone from San Diego? Yeah? Dude, San Diego is a beautiful place. San Diego is as close to heaven as you're going to get. Their weather is perfect all the time. The sunshine, the beach, the water, the food. It's just, man, San Diego. If I could live somewhere, I would want to live in San Diego. So we went out to San Diego that weekend, Sunday. This is our first full day together that we can, since we're dating. And so, I had planned out a lot of things. And so we're driving, and we drive out there. We go to the farmer's market in the morning. And after that, we went to Coronado Island. Has anyone heard of Coronado Island? Coronado, oh man, this is like paradise of paradise. It's a little island in the cove of San Diego Bay. I'm not sure how the geography works, but there's this little island, and there's San Diego on one side, and there's water, and you can see the city over here, and on the other side of the island, maybe a few miles across, you can see the Pacific, and there's a beach here. And so what I had planned for the day was I had rented bikes. And so we had these bikes. We had 2 bikes, and we were biking around the island of Coronado. It's real romantic, right? Yeah. And so we were biking around, and it was going well. I was feeling good. She was really happy, and we're having a good time. And we biked to the beach. And so we're on the beach, and we're walking along the beach as couples do. And we get to the shore, and it's beautiful. You can see the water and the sun shining, and I'm just having a great time, and everything's going so well. And I'm like, yes, all right, we're doing well. And there's these rocks, and it's like big rocks because I'm not used to that in Michigan. We have Silver Beach, and there's no rocks, but there's these rocks, and so I thought that was cool. And so we start going out on these rocks, climbing out, and it starts getting deeper and deeper, and we're climbing on these rocks, right? And so she's going this way, and I'm coming this way, and we're just kind of precariously going, and we're coming together in the middle to meet up. And we're almost there, and there's this kind of rock big enough for the 2 of us. And so we both step on the rock, and we finally meet in the middle. And to my horror, as I took that step, and as she took that step, we both start losing our balance. And this is not shallow water anymore. We had ventured out in the deep where it was maybe chest high. And so we both start losing balance, and we're going back and forth. And the worst thing that could happen happened. Guess who fell in the water? She fell in the water. And I was still on the rock. And so she has her backpack on, and she's in the water, and she is just soaked, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, what just happened? And I pull her up, and her legs are all scratched up and bleeding because she fell on the rocks, and I am like, I am the worst boyfriend in the world. How could I let this happen? Not only that, afterwards, when I had pulled her, I was so embarrassed and so shocked, and I'm just thinking to myself as we're going back to shore, man, we were both off balance. Did I push her? Did I push her? And I'm like, oh man, because we were both off balance, and she ended up in the water. And so we dried off, and we laughed about it and whatnot, and we proceeded through our day eating and doing different things. And throughout that day, when I had moments to think, I kept wondering, man, did I push her? I can't remember. It all happened so quickly, and I don't know, is self-preservation really what's in my heart? And then I started thinking more things. I was like, what if there was a shooting, and she was there and I was there? What would I do? Would I save her? Would I push her out of the way and run again? Who am I? And I'm freaking out because I'm like, I don't know what's inside me. And so I have these doubts in my mind the whole day. Sorry, I'm taking too long with the story, but so we end up in the evening, we're same day, okay? We end up in the evening, and we go to this place called Sunset Cliffs. Has anyone heard of that place? It is beautiful. It overlooks the Pacific. It's the best place to watch the sunset, they say. And so we get out of the car maybe 40 minutes before the sun goes down. I had planned out the whole day, and it was going well, except my one hiccup. And we get out, and there's a lot of people there. There's like surfers and like just couples and like different people just hanging out. There's a lot of people, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of places to kind of sit down and enjoy the sunset. So we're walking along, and for some reason, there is this perfect spot where the cliff goes over the water, and nobody's there, and it is just calling out to me, that's your spot. No one's there. Everyone's around it. Everyone's behind it. Everyone's over here, but it's a little bit secluded, and there's no one on the spot. And I'm like, that's my spot, and so we go. And so we walk, and people are kind of like looking at us as we walk past them, and we get to the edge, and we're approaching the edge. And remember, I'm having these doubts about myself, whether I am a real caring guy and like self-sacrificing or not. And so we're walking up to the edge, and getting ready to put our stuff down to enjoy the sunset. And right as we get to the edge, I look over, and I see coming at me this giant wave just rushing upwards into the air. And this just happens in slow motion. It rushes into the air and flies 20 feet up. And it's just all this wall of water just waiting to come down upon me, and I have a split second to make a decision. And so, no wonder everyone was in the back, because they knew, but we didn't know because we just showed up. We didn't know. And so this huge wall of water is here. I'm having these doubts of whether I'm a self-sacrificing person. And what do? To my shame, I am not proud of this. To my shame, I turn and I run and I just leave her behind. Oh my goodness. I am a coward. The worst thing was, when she turned to run, she tripped and fell. In front of everyone. You can imagine my embarrassment. I had a chance to redeem myself, and I blew it again. I am ashamed. And so just to end the story, we ended up sitting elsewhere. We changed and dried off, and I couldn't even enjoy the sunset. I just had my head between my knees, and I was just, how could I, like, what message have I sent her? Like, this is like the first date, like, I am so ashamed of myself. And, I just couldn't enjoy the rest of the evening. I was so ashamed. Whether or not she cared or not, I knew what was inside my heart. I was so disappointed in myself that self-preservation was my first priority. Even though I said the words and I really thought that I would take care of her and thought I would put her first, self-preservation, when it all came down to it, that was my first priority, and I ran. There have been so many times where I have been walking in my spiritual experience, and I look at myself because of some kind of circumstance or something comes up where I see that I am not who I thought I was, that I am disappointed with the person that I am. I am ashamed of who it is I see inside. And I get discouraged. I look at the patriarchs in the Bible, and I see their faithfulness, and I see how noble and how selfless and how awesome they were, and I look at myself and I get so discouraged because I'm not like that person. I'm the guy who turns and runs. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt disappointed with the person that you are, and that just discourages you? Have I really been sincere at all? I look back and I think maybe I've come somewhere, but I look back again, I think maybe I'm the same person that I've been for the last however many months or weeks or years. We're going to look at a story really quickly. This might seem like it's random, but we'll connect it all at the end. Genesis chapter 22, if you want to turn there in your phones or in your Bibles. Genesis 22. And in Genesis 22, we have the story of Abraham and Isaac. The test of Abraham is often referred to, and we know the story, so we're not going to go through it piece by piece, but basically, one day, God comes up to Abraham. We'll just read it together. Genesis chapter 22, verse 1. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And Abraham said, here I am. He said, take your son, your only son whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. This is a centerpiece story in our Christian faith, is it not? We all know this story. But there is something inherently strange about this story right from the beginning, and it should be troubling to you, and it's certainly troubling to me. God has just gone up to a father, a very good father, and he said, hey, look, Abraham, I want you to do something for me. What I want you to do is I want you to take your little boy, and I want you to take him 3 days away, and I want you to kill him. It's unsettling. Turn to your neighbor right now and say, I had a dream last night, and God told me to kill you. What are they thinking right now? You're crazy. You're crazy, right? This is a strange story. We like to think that, oh, you know, it's a nice story about faith, but this is strange, especially because God has taken his time so often in the Bible to say, I despise child sacrifice. It's an abomination. An abomination is a pretty strong word, is it not? God doesn't like this kind of stuff. But here God is coming up to Abraham and he says, take your son, your only son, and sacrifice him. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Abraham, the dude, wakes up early in the morning, almost like he's eager. I don't think he was eager, but it almost seems that way. He wakes up early in the morning, and he proceeds to do so. And we know the story. He goes up on the mountain, and he almost kills Isaac, and God tells him stop. And we look at the story, and wow, Abraham was so faithful to God. Look at how faithful Abraham is. Look at how noble Abraham is. If I could be like Abraham, have the faith of Abraham. My question to you is, why would God tell a father to kill his own son? Why would God tell a father to kill his own son? Some people might suggest that it's because he just had to test Abraham to make sure that he was willing to give up Isaac, right? And Abraham knew the voice of God so well that he could tell between the devil and God. And there might be, I'm sure there's some truth to that. But is God merely coming to Abraham and having Abraham walk through the psychological trauma of the idea of killing his own son just to see if Abraham is willing to not get attached to the things that God gives to him? Is that all that the story is trying to portray? It seems a little bit shallow. It seems a little troubling to me. I like to suggest that there's something more to this story. I'd like to suggest that the test of Abraham is not to reveal to God what Abraham was willing to sacrifice. The test of Abraham was not necessarily to reveal to God what Abraham was willing to sacrifice, but the test of Abraham was to reveal to Abraham what God was willing to sacrifice. The test of Abraham was to reveal to Abraham what God was willing to sacrifice. This is all going to come together, I promise, at the very end. We've turned our Christianity, we've turned our sacrifices into what do I bring? What am I willing to give up? What is up with me? What do I bring to the table? But the reason why I think Abraham was able to go through with this is because Abraham knew it's not about what I'm willing to give up. God is trying to tell me something here. And so listen for the gospel language, the New Testament gospel language, as I read this again, okay? Just listen for the New Testament gospel language. We're just going to go through this really quickly. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to Abraham, and he said, Abraham, and he said, here I am. He said, take your son, your only son whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Take your only begotten son. Do you guys hear the similarity in the language here? John 3:16, okay? Take your son, your only son. Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac, and they go to the mountain. So Abraham takes his son, his only begotten son, and a donkey takes the son to the place of sacrifice. Does that sound familiar, anybody? A donkey takes the son to the Jerusalem, the place of sacrifice in Jesus. See the analogies that's playing out here. He cut the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place that God had told him. On the third day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you." So check this out. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. The father takes wood and he lays it on his son, and his son carries the wood to the place of sacrifice. Are we seeing the analogy here? Verse 7, Isaac said to his father, Abraham, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." He said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" The son begins to question the sacrifice, as Jesus questioned the Father in Gethsemane about the sacrifice. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. The father ties his son to the wood, which would kill him, to die. You see, when Abraham is walking away from his test, Abraham's not thinking to himself, "Man, I passed the test. Like, I'm so pious. I didn't get too attached to my son. Like, I proved to God I am willing to sacrifice these things." That's not what Abraham was thinking about when he was walking away from that test. Abraham was thinking what it must have been like for the father to think about the idea of letting his son die tied to the wood. Not 3 days to the land between home and Moriah, but God, the Father, has to walk from Genesis to Gethsemane, to the cross, thousands of years contemplating the death of his son to come. The sacrifice or the test of Abraham was not to reveal to God what Abraham was willing to sacrifice. The test of Abraham was to reveal to Abraham what God was willing to sacrifice. Are we together? We love to make it about me. And so we're here. I talk to so many young people and my peers and my students that I work with, and we're trying to accept Jesus, and we're trying to engage in our spirituality, and we start throwing out these excuses. Well, I have a lot of doubt, and I'm dealing with addictions, and I don't have this, I'm not smart, I'm not kind, I'm not loving, I struggle with these things, I don't understand. And Jesus is like, I know you're going through all of that, but the point is not what you're willing to give up. It's not about you. The gospel is not about you. The gospel is wholly and solely for you, but it's not about you. It's about Jesus and what he was willing to give up. God through the Bible, God in the scriptures, God in the gospel is constantly crying out to his people, "Look at me. Look at me. Look at what I'm willing to give up for you." We try to make it about us. We try to make so hard what it is about what we can give up, what I can do, what can I do to contribute to the system. But God is like, it's about me. Look at me. This is not a strange, egotistical kind of look at me. God is saying, look at me because I want to show you how much I love you. I want to show you how much I care about you. Jesus says that the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then, in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Why does the man buy the field? Is it because he has some inherent, intrinsic, self-sacrificing humility that he's willing to sell everything that he has? No. What compels the man to buy the field? The treasure. The man understood that there was something so valuable that to sell everything else is not even a question. If there was a plot of land in Berrien Springs that was $20,000, land here is cheap, but you found a chest of gold with $20 million in it, would you sell your car and your home and your guitar and your textbooks and everything to get that? No question, right? No question, I would sell everything that I have. The thing that is so compelling about my sacrifice, the thing that compels that man to sacrifice everything that he has is not his own inherent things, but it's because he sees the value of what is in front of him. God is saying through the scriptures, look at me, look at what I'm trying to do for you. The rich young ruler, he was too busy looking at the things in his hand, his riches, his possessions, his influence. He was too busy looking at what he had to see that in front of him was the source of life eternal, the greatest treasure in all the world. When I mourn for the person that I am, when I mourn for the person that I'm not, when I mourn because of the things that I do, or when I mourn because of the things that I don't do, when I mourn because of the addictions in my life that I can't overcome, when I mourn because of the pain that I've inflicted to those who are close to me, when I mourn because I run away from my girlfriend because I'm looking for myself rather than her, when I am distraught with the person that I am, there is comfort, and that comfort is in Jesus. Because the gospel is about Jesus. It's not about us. We get so distracted not just with materialism, not just with media, but with ourselves. That's the biggest distraction. I'm not this. I'm not that. I got to get rid of this. I can't do that. I need to do this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we get so caught up with ourselves that we miss the point. God is saying, look at me. I will comfort you. And when you see what I've done for you, things will change. For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would even dare to die. But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. The gospel is about what Jesus has done. It is not about you. It is wholly and solely for you. It's about Jesus. 2 Timothy says, if we are unfaithful, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. When we mourn, whatever we're going through, and we're all going through something different, I challenge you to turn your eyes to Jesus, because it's about him. And the Comforter will be there to take those away and to show you something better.